So we're going to be continuing with integers today, and we're going to be looking at subtracting negative numbers. Okay, so let's just look at standard subtraction and how it's represented on a number line. We're going to be calculating 9 subtract 4. Of course, you will absolutely be able to answer this question, but I just want to demonstrate, just like you would have went over previously, how that looks like, or what that looks like on a number line. So we're starting at number 9, and because we're subtracting 4, we're going to move down the number line to the left, so our numbers are going to get smaller. So we said last time that we move left when we subtract. So we're moving left 4 places to get to 5, which means 9 subtract 4 equals 5. So notice again we said move left when we are subtracting. However, when we get to subtracting negative numbers, so these are the types of questions we'll be doing today. 5 subtract negative 3. So if we were to start at 5 and we said previously, well, we obviously have to move left when we're subtracting. However, I need you to stop right there because we are in fact subtracting a negative number. So this representation here represents 5 subtract 3. However, we are finding 5 subtract negative 3, which is the opposite. So I want you to think opposite. So we are 5 subtract the opposite of 3. So therefore, we must move right, so the opposite direction, when we are subtracting a negative. Don't worry, this will definitely become clearer as we go through the lesson, but I just want you to think about if we're subtracting a negative, think opposite. So rather than moving left as you normally would, we're going to go in the opposite direction. So let's start again, the correct way. 5 subtract negative 3. We move right when we're subtracting a negative. So we're going to move forward up the number line 3 places to get to 8, which means 5 subtract negative 3 equals 8. Okay, so let's put this into practice again with a few more examples, and I'll give you some to try as well. So here we're going to use our number line, and we are going to calculate 4 subtract negative 5. So we're going to start at 4. So wherever we're starting, if you just plot that onto your number line as you're working through, just to really help you count up in the right direction to make sure you get the right answer. So 4 subtract negative 5, and we say that if we are subtracting a negative, rather than moving left, we need to think of the opposite, so we're going to be moving right. So we're going to be moving right 5 places. So move right when we are subtracting a negative. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means 4 subtract negative 5 equals 9. So using this example to help you and thinking about the opposite, so you're moving in the opposite direction from what you normally would, I want you to try this question. So can you calculate 2 subtract negative 4? Just pause the video here. When you unpause, you will get the answer. Okay, so hopefully you will have drawn out your number line, started at 2, and think about the opposite because we're subtracting a negative, so we're subtracting the opposite. So let's move right when we're subtracting a negative. So 1, 2, 3, 4 places, and you should have got to 6. So 2 subtract negative 4 equals 6. Okay, let's do another example. So example 2, we have to calculate negative 6 subtract negative 3. So this time we're starting at a negative place. So it doesn't matter where we are on the number line. That is, whatever this first term is, that's where we're going to start. So this time we're going to start in the negatives. So negative 6 subtract negative 3. I'm going to think opposite and move right to subtract a negative. So rather than moving left to subtract a positive, we'll be moving right. So we're moving right 3 places, 1, 2, 3, to get to negative 3. So that means negative 6 subtract negative 3 equals negative 3. So again, using this number line to help you, and the example, if you pause the video here and calculate negative 9 subtract negative 4. Okay, so hopefully you will have started at negative 9. Think opposite, so we're going to move right to subtract a negative. So we're moving right 1, 2, 3, 4 places to get to negative 5. So your answer, negative 9 subtract negative 4, you should have gotten negative 5. So well done if you got that. Okay, so we've went through 2 examples and you've tried 2 yourself, and I was wondering if you have spotted a link at all. So going back to the very first example that I showed you, 5 subtract negative 3, we started at 5 and we said we're going to move right when we're subtracting a negative. So we're going to move right, which is forward, to get to 8. And previously you learned that if you move right on a number line, you're going to be adding. So if we are moving right to subtract a negative, that's the same as moving right to add. So notice that 5 subtract negative 3. So we've got these 2 negatives here. 5 subtract negative 3 equals 8. But that is the same as saying, well, 5 add 3 equals 8. They're the same thing. Because we are moving in that direction of the number line, we are adding on 3. So essentially we could rewrite 5 subtract negative 3. So notice those 2 negatives side by side with nothing in between, apart from the bracket, but that's just to help you identify that being a negative 3. So 2 negatives side by side, that is the same as saying add, because we are moving in that direction, the right direction of our number line. So going back to the previous 2 examples that we've looked at, so example 1, I did 4 subtract negative 5 equals 9, but notice that that is the same as 4 add 5 equals 9. And then example 2, I had negative 6 subtract negative 3 equals negative 3, but that again is the same as negative 6 add 3 also equals negative 3. So this is once you've understood that when we are subtracting a negative, we are going right on the number line, that is the same as adding on the number line because you're moving right. So this is a nice little quick way of knowing what to do when we have these double negatives. So let's look at a couple more examples using this slightly quicker method, but you can absolutely still use your number line to help you. So the double negative, first example, I'm going to do 12 subtract negative 5. But because I now know that if I'm subtracting a negative, I'm doing the opposite. So I'm going to be moving right rather than left. That is the same as adding. If I'm moving right on the number line, that's the same as adding. So I'm going to rewrite 12 add 5. And then I can calculate that simply as 17. Okay. So I've just swapped out this double negative for an add, and then I've went ahead and calculated that. So using that example, writing down your question, changing it to an addition, and then answering your question, can you follow that example carefully? And you can use your number line to help you if you want. Absolutely fine. Can you please calculate 20 subtract negative 8? Okay, so 20 subtract negative 8. Hopefully you've managed to give this one a go. I'm going to swap out this double negative because if I'm subtracting a negative, it means I'm moving right on the number line, which is the same as adding. So 20 add 8 will give us 28. So well done if you got that. Okay, let's look at another example. This time I'm going to do negative 25 subtract negative 6. So I'm starting in the negatives this time, and I'm subtracting a negative, which means I'm moving right on the number line, which is the same as adding. I am going to replace this double negative with an addition. So I've got negative 25, add 6, and I'm just going to calculate that. Again, use the number line if you need. So starting at negative 25, moving right, adding on 6 to get to negative 19. And you've probably guessed it, another one for you to try. Using the number line if you need it. Can you please calculate negative 14 subtract negative 5? Okay, hopefully you've unpaused and you've given yourself time to calculate that. So negative 14, starting negative 14, I'm subtracting a negative, which is the same as adding. So I can just do negative 14 add 5 to get to negative 9. So well done if you got that. Okay, next up is a task for you to do. I would like you to calculate the following. There are 10 questions, so if you pause here, and can you please calculate these 10 questions, remembering that if you're subtracting a negative, you're moving right on the number line, which is the same as adding. And you can use your number line to help you if you want. So if you pause now. Okay, hopefully you have unpaused and you've managed to give these questions a go. So first answer, 6 subtract negative 8. I'm subtracting a negative. I can swap that to an add, so 6 add 8 to get 14. Then I'm going to swap this double negative, 4 add 5 to give me 9. Negative 5 subtract negative 1, so negative 5 add 1 to give us negative 4. Negative 4 and then add 8 to give us 4. 1 subtract negative 6, so I can swap that double negative to an add to give us 7. And 7, change that double negative to an add 8 to give us 15. Starting at negative 10 on your number line, we're subtracting a negative, swap that to an add to get 10. 16, subtract negative 10 to get 26. Negative 20, subtract negative 50, so we're getting into much bigger numbers here, but this little trick of swapping the negatives should really help you rather than drawing out a big, huge, long number line. So negative 20, swapping this to an add, so I'm adding 50 to give us 30, and then 40, subtract negative 40, which is 40 add 40, gives us 80. So if you give yourself a wee score out of 10, really well done if you got the majority, if not all of them, correct. And remember, this little trick with swapping these negative signs only works if you are subtracting a negative number. So if you've got two negatives side by side. So subtracting a negative number is the same as adding a positive.